Hi, thank you so much for clicking on session 3. This is Althea Smith, and I'm going to continue where I left off. And I was talking about my experiences in Jamaica, in Linstead, after my mom and my father moved to America. And I had to live with my grandmother. And I love my grandmother very much. And I know she was a good person. She was a giver. And she was, very good to the people in the community. I had issues also as a child. I guess I had anger after my mom left, and went to America because I missed her so much. And it was something she had to do because she wanted to go to America and prepare things and then send for her kids. And so that was a good thing. And I'm glad that she did it because now I'm in America. And I've learned from the experiences of being my grandmother and growing up in a home with many children that Althea, even as a child, I had some issues. I had resentment issues. My mother used to send barrels to Jamaica with lots of clothes and gifts and food and everything in it. And my grandmother, being a kind-hearted woman, there was maybe 8 or 9 other girls in the yard, and I was a selfish child. I learned that, and I'm going to tell you, because my grandmother used to share all the clothes that my mom sent for us. She used to share them with my cousins, which I really didn't mind her sharing the clothes with my cousins because my mom sent enough for everybody. But my grandmother would ask me which outfit I liked the best. So I'm thinking that she asked me which one I liked the best because she was going to make sure I get that one. But the clothes I like, the outfits that I like the best, she would give it to one of my cousins. And I was mad. I remember one day there was this outfit my mom said. I loved this outfit. It was a green pleated skirt with like a green short sleeve little sweater top with like little roses on it. And I loved that outfit. And my grandmother knew I loved that outfit. And she gave it to one of my cousins. And I always consider that cousin her favorite cousin because, one of my grandmother's son died. My grandmother had 9 boys, 10. I think 9 boys and 1 girl. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think she had 9 boys and 1 girl. And she also she had 10 boys because one of the boys died. So the child that died, she loved that grandchild. It was a girl. And I'm telling you that I had resentment towards this girl cousin for years because I felt like everything I loved, my grandmother would give it to her. And now I look back, God was dealing with my issue as a child of when I love something very much, He gives it away. And that's something I've experienced my whole life. Every time I love something, God will allow it to be taken from me and given to somebody else that I thought didn't need it as much as I did. But apparently, I guess they did need it more than I did. But in my experience, I didn't feel like they needed it more than I did. But my cousin, I guess, needed it. My grandmother used to give her all my favorite clothes, and I really didn't like that cousin. I even up to maybe God showed me. I went on Facebook and I saw that cousin, and I just felt uncomfortable. And I said, God, I have to forgive this girl because she probably don't even know the feelings I have towards her. But I didn't do anything like try to be friends with her on Facebook because I felt like my heart wasn't right, and I have to get it right. And I'm not mad anymore. I realized that we were kids and she had no control over being special. She just was. And my grandmother loved her, and I just held this resentment in my heart against her for a lot of years because everything I loved, she got it. And she was just a favorite grandchild. And I didn't like her. I really didn't. I used to fight with my cousins all the time. I mean, this is before I got the Holy Ghost. I used to fight like daily. I was always different. I was always outspoken. I was always very independent. I always did my own thing. I had my own mindset. I really didn't think that people understood me. The things that they were interested in, I wasn't. And I really didn't have that commonness with my cousin or even my sister, the oldest one. I just felt disconnected from her. I guess because she didn't spend a lot of time with me in Spanish Town with my mom, so I didn't have that bond with her that I had with like my sister and my 2 brothers, my other sister. But my other sister, my middle sister, it's my mother has 5 kids, 3 girls and 2 boys. My older sister, my middle sister, then it's me, then my 2 younger brothers. And my middle sister, she was always a quiet, soft-spoken, soft-spirited one. So sometimes it's like she's not really there because you don't really hear that much about her. Well, now you do. Well, now I do as we got older. But then my younger brother, the youngest one, the one that died maybe 3 years ago, he was always quiet. Also, I never really had a lot of strong experiences about him. My older sister, I had strong experiences about her because I guess she was the oldest one. So your eyes are on the one that I guess you respect the most. And my older sister was very close to my cousins, and she still is very close to them. And I wanted that closeness, and we just never connected. My older sister and I just never connected, and I felt like in Jamaica, I felt like when I needed her, she was young too, so I'm not judging her, okay? But I'm just telling you from a child, I just wanted that older sister to protect me and look out for me, and I never got that because she was comfortable with my other cousins because she grew up with them. But I had resentment issues. I used to fight. I remember my cousins my boy cousins, we had like maybe 8 or 9 boy cousins holding my arms, trying to hold my legs, and then my cousins would fight me, and they call me crazy because I was doing whatever it takes, but I'm going to win this fight, and I was a fighter. I fought all the time. I remember my grandmother, and I remember winning too. My cousin might not remember, but I won every fight. I was crazy, and I was going to bring everybody down with me in my moments of fighting. And people always trying to hold me back, and sometimes they'll hold me back and let my other cousins beat me up. So I felt like I was on my own. I felt like if I don't win this, if I don't survive this, who's going to protect me? I had to protect myself. I'm a child. I felt like I had to protect myself. My grandmother wanted to beat me, she would have to send the whole house of cousins to find me. They would chase me for hours because I was not going to let my grandmother beat me that easy. If she's going to beat me, she's going to have to catch me. And we had a place in my backyard called Gully. A gully was like a mile long in the back of our house, and it had trees and river all the way in the back, and lots of things that we planted. I love the gully because when they try and beat me, I would run and hide in the gully. I sure would. But after eventually in the evening they would catch me, but for a long time it took them a while to catch me. But my grandmother would whip my butt, and I'm sure I deserve it in her eyes. In my eyes, I'm always innocent. Remember I told you, we all think we're innocent in our own eyes, and God understands and He sees that. But I remember my grandfather. My grandfather was handsome. He was like over 6 feet. He was tall. I love my grandfather. I know he loved me, but he was a quiet one. My grandfather didn't speak that much, and he didn't do that much in terms of raising the kids. But my grandfather was the one that I really loved, and I loved my cousins. I loved my uncles. I had great uncles. I had great uncles that I just loved them so much. But my grandfather, I remember one time him beating all of us, because my grandfather had a slaughterhouse where he killed animals. So he used to raise animals, and there was like a pig pen, and it was all of us kids in the yard, and someone, I don't know who it is, took like a blue marker pen, and I don't know how the blue marker pen ended up in the pigsty, but all the pigs were purple. And my grandfather, that's what he does for a living. He kills animals and sells them. So we can't have any purple animals. I mean, pigs supposed to be like whitish, pinkish. These pigs were purple. My grandfather called all of us and make us all get in a line, and he was asking us who sold the purple ink pen in the pigsty. Nobody would own up to it. I remember my grandfather was left-handed, and my grandfather went to the bathroom, and he always had this belt where he used to sharpen his blade that he bear, like there's a blade that he shaves with, and he sharpens it on this leather band, and he took this leather band with his left hand, and he beat all of us. I stayed enlisted for 4 years, and I think that was the only time my grandfather ever beat us. And my grandfather was very quiet, but when he pulled that left hand out, you gotta run. But we didn't run; we got beaten. And I just love my grandfather, and he used to kill. I remember on Thursday mornings, it would be around 3 o'clock. Everyone had to wake up. Everyone had to wake up because it was time to kill. It was slaughter night. We call it slaughter night, where we kill the animals, and it's really not a pretty experience, but it was fun. We made fun out of everything. Everything was fun for me in Jamaica, I'll be honest to you. I love Thursday night because we were able to get different parts of the animals and we would cook it outside while the older kids, work in the slaughterhouse and help kill the animals. We had fun. It was awesome. I remember um, Bob Marley's death. All of us was in the backyard, and if we go all the way down in the gully and to the other side, there's a highway. I remember when Bob Marley died. It was really sad, and we all loved him, and we could partake of the funeral by being outside on the highway because they had to come past where we lived to take him to burial. And I remember, just we were up in like an ackee tree, and we were just looking over and watching thousands of people and the funeral casket. It was a sad time. I also remember Andy Gibbs dying and Marvin Gaye, and oh, those stories just really touched me. Andy Gibbs, I don't know, you guys probably don't know who he is. He was just a singer, Caucasian, three brothers, and he was the cutest one and the nicest one, and he had the best voice, and he died, and those things I remember. We have to cherish our childhood. We have to go back sometime and just remember the innocence of our mind, the innocence of our thoughts. We used to have doll house. We used to make our own dolly house. We used to make our own tree house. We used to make upstairs and downstairs, and stuff happened in those houses. Anyone that grew up in Jamaica or in their country where boys and girls are together making doll house with mother and father, there was some stuff happening that shouldn't have been happening. But overall, it was beautiful. I remember mango season. Oh my God, I love mango. I can eat mango from here until next year. Thousands of mango. We just eat mango over and over and over again. I thank God for my childhood. I thank God that eventually He filled my little fighting butt with the Holy Ghost, and that's how God got me. Because I used to fight my cousins, and I used to be so angry. I used to be so mad. Not all the time because it was fun, but I did have anger issue as a young girl. I was probably like 8 or 7, and I had anger issue. I remember when I got the Holy Ghost, after my cousins used to mess with me, I just didn't have that thing to fight no more. Like I wanted to fight them, but I was never. It's like I couldn't get my heart to that thing in me that made me fight was gone, and I noticed it. And I would talk to Jesus, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like I didn't have that thing to fight. It was gone. It was gone. I was just like, wow. I wasn't happy because that was my defense mechanism. I like fighting because when they mess with me, I fight them. I remember one day I was in school and my little brother, this girl wanted to fight me. And honestly, this is something I grew up with that people don't know me. They don't like me just by meeting me. And I never understood that. They thought I was different. I think because I'm not that social and I have to observe you and make sure that we have things in common or make sure that you're a good person. I used to observe people, make sure they had a good heart before I get to be friends with you, or observe people to make sure I have, like I can be myself because somehow I found out that I was different, that the way I thought was not like every other child, that the way it's just the things that came out my mouth to people was crazy. But it's just my thought was always so way advanced. So I didn't make friends with everybody because not everybody could understand me, and I didn't want to be called crazy. And I felt like as a child, it just wasn't fair. I just really couldn't find people that I felt like I had things in common with. But even though I had a great time with my cousins and my sister and my uncles, and we did a lot of fun things together, I always felt lonely. A couple experience that brought this loneliness on was when we were in Linston. I had a grandmother, my father's mother. She lived in Spanish Town, and she lived in this place called Taw's Pen. And Taw's Pen was a bad place, and you don't want to be there. There was people getting chopped up with machetes, bodies thrown into river. They were finding foot and finger and everything they were finding in the river. So I really didn't like go see my grandmother in Spanish Town because where she lived was so bad. People always getting shot and killed. So as a little girl, I wanted nothing to do with that place. So my grandmother in Linstead, which is my mom's mother, she used to send me on the weekends to go see my grandmother, and my grandmother used to always ask for me. Me and my other grandmother didn't get along either because she was a little crazy, and I would tell her, like, I would say, grandmother, I don't agree with that, or that's wrong, or you should do it this way. And people think kids really shouldn't say that much, but I was one of those kids that I spoke my mind, and I wasn't trying to hurt people, but I just like truth. So I used to just tell people the truth, and I realized that people don't like that about me. Like, I tell the truth. And my grandmother used to send me on the bus, an hour ride. Can you imagine Jamaica? I'm like a little girl, leaving my other brothers and sisters, getting on this bus with a bunch of people I don't know. Jamaican bus, they're so tight. You have to hold tight so you don't fall over, because it was always like leaning over, especially when you're close to the water and stuff, and you're scared, and there's all these people around you. And I had to go on these bus rides every weekend. I remember one day I was walking from the bus station to where my grandmother lived, and it was a long distance. I had to walk it by myself. I don't remember once an adult took me to my grandmother's house in Spanish Town from Linstead. And that was like an hour ride. And that was traumatic for a child. And that's how my loneliness issues start to develop. I had to walk past these houses that they have these big black dogs, and they wouldn't close their gate. I remember this one house, they never closed their gate, and I used to say, God, I used to pray and say, I hope they close their gate. I hope they close their gate, because their dogs were tall and crazy. And I remember passing by and scared of the dogs coming out after me. And I remember I was walking, and those dogs started to chase me. And I felt so vulnerable. I felt so alone. So scared, and there was nobody to help me. And I guess God had helped me, because he probably stopped them. But I don't know how those dogs stopped, but I ran and ran and ran and ran until eventually I didn't hear no barking. I guess they got tired, but I sure wasn't going to get bit that day. But those experiences, that experience actually started my loneliness. I used to go to my grandmother's house, and she was always speaking in tongues. She was a Christian. Speaking in tongues, she saw ghosts, and we call it guppy in Jamaica. She used to say, Moss Roy just came under the gate. She's like, do you see Moss Roy? Hopi, do you see Moss Roy? Moss Roy was dead. She's like, do you see Moss Roy coming from under the gate? I was like, I gotta get out of this house. This lady had lizards, they call running lizards. They're like snakes, running lizards, all over her yard. I hated that yard and then her toilet was outside. And then as a little girl, when you sit on those outside toilet, you can actually, if you actually look in those toilet, you see feces for 5,000 years. And it was dark, and you see lizards. And so for me, it was traumatic. I did not want to be in that lady's house. She was always calling ghosts. She was always seeing spirits. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. I wasn't comfortable. And then she'll cuss those spirits out. She'll tell them curse words. She would. My grandmother would cuss those spirits out. And the next day, she's in church. She's on the choir. And she's, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. God is good. And the next day, she's cussing again. And I used to just remember it. I'm like, as a little girl, I was like, this lady's a hypocrite. I was just like, she crazy. Honestly, I love my grandmother, but I was just like, I did not want to be in her house. I was like, I do not want to see another spirit. I do not want to hear about another ghost coming to visit her. It was funny. But she had like a plum tree in the front yard, and another tree in the backyard that I love, guineps. So those were the two joys of going to her house. She had a plum tree and a guinep tree, so I was able to get some of the falling guineps and some plum. But she had lots of lizards that would chase you all over the yard. You had to pee in like a pan and put it under the bed for the morning, and wake up in the morning and empty the pee out. I hated that. I don't like people to see me those private moments, even when I was a child, and I didn't feel comfortable, getting up and peeing this pan. And in the daytime, I had to go use that toilet where I thought I was going to drop in with all those doo-doo at the bottom of the pit. And for a child, those things were dramatic, but I really didn't like my grandmother's yard, But growing up in Linstead was beautiful for me. The reason that I mentioned some of the negative experiences, because I just like to be real and those are the things that shape us. Honestly, we don't know that because we expect good. So the negative things is what shapes us, is what we remember, is what shapes. I mean, good things shapes us also, and I had a lot of good. I had a lot of good. I had a lot of fun. I used to make my own clothes. We used to go to this place called Dump, where it was now I learned it's a garbage place. But when we were younger, we were poor. We didn't even know we were poor. We didn't know what poverty was. I didn't even know what color was. Like light skinned people were considered like not pretty in Jamaica, and the dark skinned they used to say red is corruption, black is beautiful, and red is corruption. So in America, it's the opposite way around. But in Jamaica, when I grew up, being Caucasian or being light skinned for us wasn't that great. We were red. We weren't dark or light. We were considered red. They called us all red. And I had like blonde afro and stuff. But I didn't learn about color and race until I got to America. But in Jamaica, I remember that dark skin was always beautiful, so I've always admired dark skinned people because I always felt like they were more beautiful because just the way I was taught in Jamaica. But Jamaica was fun. We had some amazing next door neighbors. I remember, we used to go steal cane. I mean, we had cane for lunch, breakfast, and dinner. Once my grandparents weren't around, me and my cousins would go to the back of the cane piece where the thicker cane is and the sweeter cane because they're the older cane. Oh my God, we used to cut sugar cane. Oh my goodness, I love it. It's just the memory of it for me was so beautiful. I mean, we had so much fun, and the good way outdo the bad. The good way outdo the bad. That's why I love Jamaica, and I would love to go back there and live, but I'm scared, to be honest to you, because I've been to Jamaica at an older age, and they're just norm American, and you're just targeted. But I know that you can live in Jamaica and have good experiences, but I don't know if I would love to go back there and live, but I don't know. I don't think it's wise. Not stand out too much. I don't like that about myself too. Like I stand out in a crowd. I can never hide. I said, God, I'm so private, but yet, no matter what, the focus is always on me. Like no matter what, and I hate it, and I hate it up to now, But I'm learning that that's part of my development and part of walking into my purpose and be who God wants me to be. That the focus is going to be on me, and I have to accept that. But for years, and I hated it. I'm like, I can never hide. But I just thank God for my experience in Linstead. And I remember the time came when my mother sent for us, and it was time to come to America. And I was a Christian then, so my hair was natural. I didn't have no perm. And it was me, my brothers, my sisters, it was all 5 of us, and we had to get on a plane to come to America. And that was a very interesting experience. I remember being on the plane, and everything was just so amazing to me, just getting on this plane, and they was giving us food, and I was just happy to be with my brothers and sisters, and I was going to see my mom, and I was so excited. And I remember taking pictures and saying goodbye to my grandmothers and my cousins, and I was just happy to see my mom again because. But one thing that bothered me about seeing my mom was that my mom was a Christian when I was growing up. But when she came, and her hair was natural. In Jamaica, if your hair is natural, as a Christian, your hair has to be natural, and it's a certain look. And then when my mom went to America, I remember she sent a picture of herself, and she had perm hair, and I used to cry and say, God, my mother's not going to America. My mother backslid. I remember like that was like a negative thing in my mind that my mom wasn't a Christian no more because she permed her hair. But my mom was always different because I came from her, so I'm a little like her. And my mom never fit into the quote unquote the mold, and she was very different, and she did have negative experiences in her church, in Jamaica, and because she was stylish and she wore really fancy shoes, and I guess the back of her heel was open, and that was like a sin in Jamaica. So they gave her a hard time, and they was very critical of her. But my mom was ahead of the game. My mom was stylish and fashionable. She doesn't fit in any mold, and I think that's what makes her great is her independence and her self-confidence and her ability to just be who she is. And you know, um, church for my mom, I guess, wasn't that positive, because there's always that elite group and there's always everyone else. And I guess she took it really hard because she felt like she was being judged for the things she wore or whatever it was that went on in her life. she was being judged for it when the people that was related to the pastor or the people that was big in the church, no one was saying anything to them, and they were doing a lot of stuff that they shouldn't have done. So I guess that put resentment in her heart and pushed her away from God, because we have to understand that as Christians, people look at us like we are God. I mean, they say they don't, but they do. And everything we do matters and makes a difference. And that's why I'm really sad that when I heard people, because I know that it's going to affect them. It's going to affect them. But, you can try to be perfect, but there's nothing you can do when other people get hurt. People are hurt based upon their own brokenness. But, we do have to try and be cognizant of other people and make sure that the experiences that they're going to have, will be a beautiful one. And I don't think everyone's had good experiences with me. I wish they did, but, you know, um, it's life, and we're all learning and we're all growing. So I'm going to end this session, okay? Because the last time I didn't end the session, so I gave you a little bit more time to hear a little bit more of, my beautiful childhood. And next time we come and talk, I'm going to talk about 1983 when I came to America for the first time. It was beautiful. So click on next time, okay? Tune in next time to session, I think 3 or 4, session 4. Okay, I look forward to you listening to me, and I see you in the next session. You have a great day, and God bless you.